Liberia has political roots in America. In 1820, the American Colonization Society colonized the area as a place to return freed slaves from America. It was believed that they would have more freedom in Liberia than in America. In 1847, the colonists founded the Republic of Liberia, patterned after the government system. Modernization came in the 1940s. Many European nations found the resources in Liberia to help restore and rebuild their after World War II. And Liberia had one of the finest law and medical schools in Western Africa. Times were prosperous. But tensions simmered and finally they exploded. The 1980s and the 1990s became horrific with bloody civil wars in which some 250,000 people were slaughtered and thousands fled into exile. Tensions rose. 250,000 people were slaughtered. The dear people have been forced for years to survive by deceit and corruption in a hostile, bitter, and violent environment. Political and economic instability shook the nation. The rebels split into various factions, violently pitted against each other. And as the warlords rampaged, civilians were caught in between. Fleeing for their lives, villages were destroyed, child soldiers were forced to kill.
They destroy our house, destroy all our properties. During the war, they captured some peoples and they cut their hands.
Other countries eventually organized a military force to intervene and stop the carnage.
A civilian was killed in full public view, and then his body was disemboweled and his intestines stretched across the road to make a checkpoint.
Other countries eventually organized a military force to intervene to preserve the peace and stop the carnage. And the fighting ended in about 2004, but it left the country devastated with destroyed infrastructure and with 85% of the population living below the international poverty level. 14 years of civil war has left a devastating scar on the country politically, economically, spiritually, and emotionally. The unemployment rate was 85%, and now the literacy rate is about 60%. So how can those thousands of child soldiers find jobs with no skills? Corruption, violence, hostility, lingering suspicions, mistrust, settling old scores, and scavenging is still commonplace. They can't just quickly eject those painfully cultural patterns overnight. And the deep scars of prolonged war weave deeply into a nation's cultural and psychological fabric.
We should be together. Don't forget about war.
Why, there's gold, there's diamonds, there's iron ore, there's timber. They're abundant, and oil is there, and the land is fertile. A nation rich in resources does have the resources to rebuild. Firestone, for example, has had for many years huge plantations in the country to harvest rubber. And rebuilding the infrastructure and somehow trying to convince the populace of peace and conflict resolution, Statistics claim that about 85% of the population is Christian and 12% is Islam. Humanitarian needs are overwhelming, and the emotional suffering of a civilian population that has survived for years amidst the horrific terror of civil war changes a people. Terrible nightmares, dreadful flashbacks, uncontrolled anger that erupts without warning. Pastors live on next to nothing. They desperately need training in theology, in Bible and sermon preparation, but also in pastoral counseling. It's not easy to get over seeing your family murdered, your village burned to the ground, your daughters and your wives raped. The good pastors must deal with those tragic remnants of war within their church, but also within themselves many times. This, then, is our great opportunity to help advance the cause of Christ under His leadership, under His calling, and His enablement. And not only do we have a website with up to 23,000 visitors per month and a Bible Academy with some 900 students who have taken courses, but now we have an on-the-ground ministry in West Africa. Our Bible Academy in Liberia has some 150 pastors attending. Our special niche in Liberia is the training of pastors, most of whom have had little training or no training. And we supply the material, the study manuals, some teachers who travel from America. And the wonderful part is that in working with Village Ministries, which is a local ministry in Liberia, the infrastructure, the organization, the personnel, the logistics are already in place, and the urgency of the massive needs is overwhelming. Those 15,000 UN peacekeeping troops will be leaving soon. However, the old warlords are still there, and so are the AK-47s. And the window for action is now, and the time is urgent, and the opportunity for Christ is challenging and compelling. And God has given to us successful results, but we need your help. We cannot do it by ourselves.